Hello, welcome to this lesson. So in this video, we are still going to continue solving questions under limits at infinity. Okay, so let's look at this question here. We have to compute the limit of e to the power 10x minus 4 e to the power 6x plus 3 multiplying e to the power x plus 2 multiplying e to the power minus 2x minus 9 multiplying e to the power minus 5x as x approaches minus infinity. So I've solved this same example, but that one I used x approaching what positive infinity. Okay, and then in this case you are dealing with what x approaching minus infinity. So if you haven't watched that video, please check in the description and then you'll find the link to that video, because how you go about that question is different from how you are going to go about this one. Okay, so let's look at how you are going to solve this question. Okay, so for this one, we can try the direct substitution and then see what you are going to get. So for the direct substitution, you are going to have e to the power 10 multiplying minus infinity, okay, minus 4 multiplying e to the power 6 minus infinity, okay, plus 3 multiplying e to the power minus infinity plus 2 multiplying e to the power minus 2 multiplying what minus infinity minus 9 multiplying e to the power minus 15 multiplying minus what infinity. Okay, so if we simplify this, you'll see that this guy here, okay, will be equal to 0. This will also be equal to 0, and then this will also be equal to 0, and then this one here, okay, will be equal to infinity, and then this will also be equal to what infinity. So at the end we are going to have infinity minus what infinity, and then this infinity minus infinity is actually a value that we don't know. Okay, so it is indeterminate, so we will have to find another way to compute this limit. Okay, so if you look at the function that was given, okay, our problem was from the last two terms. Okay, this is what caused the problem. Okay, so we are going to focus on those two terms and then do some factorization. Okay, so we had 2 to the power minus 2x. Okay, that's what we have, minus 9 times e to the power minus 15x. Okay, so we are going to do some factorization here. So what we do is that we consider the exponential function with the largest exponent. Okay, the largest exponent in this case doesn't mean that maybe considering minus 2 and then minus 15 you're going to see that minus 2 is larger than what minus 15. That's not what we are doing. Okay, we are going to look at the value that is farthest away from what 0. Okay, so if you look at minus 2 and then minus 15, you see that minus 15 is very far from 0 as compared to minus 2. Okay, so in this case, our highest exponent will be the minus 15 and not the minus 2. Okay, so you're going to factor out the e to the power what minus 15x. Okay, that's what you are going to do. Okay, so now let's do the factorization. You're going to have e to the power minus 15x here, and then bracket open 2. So let's look at what you're going to do. You're going to have e to the power minus 2x, okay, divided by what? E to the power minus what? 15x, okay. And then we can write this as e to the power minus 2x, okay, minus what? 15x, okay. And then this will give us e to the power what? Minus 2x plus what? 15x, okay. So at the end, you're going to have e to the power 13x. Okay, this is what you are going to have. You're going to have 2 times e to the power 13x. Okay, so over here we are just going to have minus what 9. Okay, so that will be the factorization. So now let's rewrite the function. Okay, let's rewrite it and see what you are going to have. Okay, so if you rewrite the function, you are now going to have the limit as x approaches minus infinity, okay, for e to the power 10x, okay, minus 4 times e to the power 6x plus 3 times e to the power x, okay, and then plus e to the power minus 15x, bracket open, 2 times e to the power 13x, okay, minus what 9. This is what you are going to have. Okay, so now let's try the direct substitution again. Okay, and then see what you are going to get. Okay, so for the direct substitution, we are going to have e to the power 10 multiplying minus infinity. Okay, minus 4 times e to the power 6 multiplying minus what infinity, plus 3 times e to the power minus infinity, plus e to the power minus 15 multiplying what minus what infinity. Okay, bracket open, 2 times e to the power 13 multiplying minus infinity minus what 9. Okay, so now let's simplify this and see what you are going to get. Okay, this value here will be equal to 0. This will also be equal to 0. This will also be equal to 0. Okay, and then for the fourth one, we are going to have e to the power 15 multiplying infinity. Okay, and then this will be equal to what 0. So times what minus 9. This is what you are going to have. Okay, so you will see that e to the power 15 multiplying infinity will give us what infinity. Okay, so you're going to have infinity times what minus 9, which will give us what minus what infinity. So this will be our answer, which is much more specific than the infinity minus infinity that we got. So this is how to go about this question. So you see that it was actually different from the one that we considered x approaching what positive infinity. That is, if you have watched that video, you'll be able to see the difference. So let's take some few more examples. Okay, so now let's try our hands on this example also. So you have to compute the limits of this given function as x approaches minus infinity. Okay, so for this question also, if you try the direct substitution, you're going to have an indeterminate form. Okay, so you have to find a way to compute the limits. Okay, so what you're going to do is that we will consider the denominator. Okay, and then since you are approaching minus infinity, you are going to consider the terms with what negative exponents. Okay, so if you look at these two terms here, you see that they have what negative exponents, which is what minus 9x and then minus 3x. Okay, so what you're going to do is that you're going to consider those two values and then choose the largest. The largest in this case will be the value that will be what farthest away from what 0. Okay, so if you consider minus 3 and then minus 9, you see that what minus 9 is very far from 0 as compared to how far minus 3 is from 0. Okay, so our largest exponent in this case will be what minus 9 and then not the minus 3. Okay, so we are going to factor e to the power minus 9x out from both the denominator and then the numerator. Okay, so let's look at that. So we are going to have the limit as x approaches minus infinity. Okay, and then in the numerator we are going to factor out e to the power of minus 9x. Okay, so we're going to have e to the power minus 9x out, and then we're going to have e to the power. Okay, so let's do the computation. Okay, we are going to have e to the power 6x divided by e to the power minus 9x. Okay, and then this will be equal to e to the power 6x minus 9x. Okay, and then that will be equal to what? E to the power 15x. Okay, so we're going to have e to the power minus 9x bracket open, e to the power what 15x here. And then for the second term also, we have e to the power minus 6x. Okay, and then we divide this by e to the power minus 9x, which will give us e to the power minus 6x, okay, plus 9x. Okay, and then this will be equal to e to the power 3x. Okay, this is what you are going to have. So minus 4 times e to the power 3x, bracket closed. Okay, so now let's look at the denominator also. Okay, but let me free some space before we continue. Okay, so for the denominator also, we are going to factor out e to the power minus 9x. Okay, so let's look at that also. So we are going to have e to the power minus 9x out. Okay, and then bracket open. And then let's look at what you're going to have for the first term. You have e to the power 3x, okay, divided by e to the power minus 9x. Okay, so this will be equal to e to the power 3x plus 9x. That will be e to the power 12x. Okay, so bracket open, 2 times e to the power 12x. Okay, and then minus 5 because it has what e to the power minus 9x attached to it. Okay, so plus, let's go what you're going to have for the last term. So we have e to the power minus 3x, okay, divided by e to the power minus 9x. That will be equal to e to the power minus 3x plus 9x. Okay, that will be equal to what? E to the power 6x. Okay, so plus e to the power 6x. Okay, so this is what we have now. Let's look at what we are going to do next. Okay, so what you're going to do next is that you are going to do some cancellation here. Okay, so let's look at that. This will cancel out this. So now let's try the direct substitution again. Okay, so if you do the direct substitution, you're going to have e to the power 15 multiplying minus infinity, okay, minus 4 times e to the power 3 multiplying minus infinity, okay, divided by 2 times e to the power 12 multiplying minus infinity minus 5, okay, plus e to the power 6 multiplying minus what? Infinity. This is what you are going to have. Okay, so now let's simplify this and see what you are going to get. Okay, so this value here will be equal to 0, and then this value will also be equal to 0, and then this will also be equal to 0, same as this, because of the negative infinity. Okay, so at the end you're going to have 0 divided by minus 5, which will be equal to what? 0. So that will be the answer for this question. Okay, so I have another example here. Let's try our hands on this example also. Okay, so this one we are approaching minus infinity. So just like we did for the previous example, we are going to consider the denominator and then look at the term with a negative exponent because we are approaching negative infinity. So in this case, it is just this term. Okay, we don't have another term which will require us to compare the the value of the exponent to choose the largest one. Okay, in this case you just have only one term that has a negative exponent. Okay, so what you're going to do is that you're going to factor out e to the power of minus x from both the denominator and then the numerator. So let's look at what you're going to have. You're going to have the limit as x approaches minus infinity. Okay, and then let's do the factorization. You're going to have e to the power minus x out and then 6. So let's look at what you're going to have. E to the power 4x divided by e to the power minus x. Okay, that will be equal to e to the power 4x plus x. Okay, so we're going to have e to the power of 5x. Okay, so that will be 6 times e to the power 5x. Okay, and then minus, so we have e to the power minus 2x. Dividing this by e to the power minus x will give us e to the power minus x. Okay, so minus e to the power minus x. Okay, this is what you are going to have. So now divided by, let's factor out e to the power minus x again. So I'm going to have e to the power minus x out, bracket open, 8 times e to the power 5x again, okay, minus e to the power 3x plus 3. Okay, I did it the same way as I did for the numerator also. So from here we can do the cancellation and then try the direct substitution again. Okay, so if you do the direct substitution, okay, if you do the direct substitution, you're going to have 6 times e to the power 5 multiplying minus infinity, okay, minus e to the power minus infinity, okay, this divided by 8 times e to the power 5 multiplying minus infinity, okay, minus e to the power 3 multiplying minus infinity plus 3. Okay, so let's simplify this. Okay, so this value here will become 0. Okay, and then this value here will become what? Infinity. Okay, and then this will also become 0. This will also become what? 0. So at the end you're going to have minus infinity divided by 3, which will give us what? Minus what? Infinity. Okay, so that will be the answer for this example also. So let's look at the last example. Okay, so for this example also, the function is the same as the previous one. Okay, just that this time around we are approaching positive infinity. Okay, so since you are approaching positive infinity, what you're going to do is that you are going to consider the denominator, okay, and then look at the exponential function with the highest exponent, okay. So in this case, you are not even considering the one with the negative exponent, okay. You are just looking at those with the positive exponent, which will be this term and then this term, and then we consider the one with the highest exponent, in this case, which will be e to the power of 4x, okay. So what we are going to do is that you are going to factor out e to the power 4x from both the numerator and then the denominator. So you're going to have this to be equal to the limit as x approaches infinity, okay, and then we are going to have e to the power 4x, okay, and then bracket open 6 minus, and then we have e to the power minus 2x divided by e to the power 4x, which will be equal to e to the power minus 2x minus what, 4x, okay. So minus e to the power minus 6x. This is what you are going to have for the numerator. Okay, so let's look at the denominator also. So you are going to factor out e to the power 4x, bracket open 8 minus, let's look at what you are going to have. We have e to the power 2x divided by e to the power 4x, which will give us e to the power minus 2x. Okay, so minus e to the power minus 2x, okay, and then plus 3, and then you're going to have e to the power minus x divided by e to the power 4x, which will give us e to the power minus 5x, okay. So plus 3 e to the power minus 5x. So that'll be the value for the denominator also. Okay, so let me free up some space, then we continue. Okay, so at this point we can do the cancellation which we have been waiting for, okay. So let's look at that. This will cancel out. Okay, so now let's try the direct substitution again. Okay, so let's look at that. We're going to have 6 minus e to the power minus 6 multiplying infinity divided by 8 minus e to the power minus 2 multiplying infinity plus 3 multiplying e to the power minus 5 times what? Infinity. Okay, so let's look at what you're going to get. This value will be equal to 0. This value will also be equal to 0. And then this will also be equal to 0. So at the end, we are going to have 6 over 8, which will give us a value of what? 3 over 4.